noise is not acceptable. If I owned a business here and I have to listen to you when I'm trying to talk to my customers, I'm not very happy.
How do you regulate the noise?
We do regulate the noise down a bit,
That was extremely loud. All these shops from 1, 2, 3, that whole side of the street and that whole side of the street is having to listen to you.
Yes.
And they don't want to.
Well, some people do. I mean, we've had the charity shop come out there and they've encouraged us. That's really good.
The charity shop is a Christian background.
Yeah. So now we're hitting on the issue, aren't we?
They're not. I'm sure most of the people who own these shops go to church. I'm sure most of the people who own these shops are Christians as well. You know. So
have they been to Christ? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, there's a bigger issue here. The issue is not so much the noise.
They don't want the noise.
No, but you just admitted there that the issue is not the noise; it's your faith, because you said the Christian charity shop would be okay. So can you provide us with a decibel level?
There is actually a decibel level, but it's not a police issue.
Yeah, we had the council here a few times, but they couldn't provide us with a decibel level. So they just went away. But now it seems every time we come on the street, because there are people here who hate the gospel, there's a few shop owners here in particular who say some very unpleasant things to us, and then they ring the police or they have others ring the police. So I think maybe the police need to sit down and have an understanding also of what's happening in the area. But I understand your position, and I understand it's a difficult one, but please understand our position also. We come from a community, okay, it might be a minority community now, but there's also the protection of minority faith groups. So we should have our protections, and when people hate us on the street and speak to us in ways that are evil, really, I've never said anything like that to anyone on the street. The things that we hear, F-U-C-K and F the Bible, so much against our faith, but there doesn't seem to be any response from the police or the public even at times. So should we now begin to call the police on these occasions? Should we tell the church congregations we need to start calling the police?
If they're not doing it on a megaphone in 10 shops, that's not the issue.
Yeah, there's been preaching in this street for 60 years on a megaphone. I personally preached in it for 13 years, and I've never had the police come out until this year. So I think there's a shift somewhere, maybe in the thinking or maybe in the ideology behind the PSNI. One PSNI officer last week told me I could preach the Bible, but not the part that speaks on homosexuality. So he was trying to give me the PSNI version of the Bible. You know, we preach from the King James Bible. We preach from the Word of God.
It wasn't his business to do that. Bottom line is, all these businesses are struggling. They're trying to make a living.
Yeah.
They're paying business rates. They want customers on the street.
And we are their customers. We shop, and our families and Christians shop in them regularly.
They don't want their noise levels interfering with their business premises. I don't care what you're saying, but the council will be looking at this footage that I've recorded.
Yes, I appreciate that.
And we'll look at that.
Yeah.
So I have nothing else to say on it. I'm going to turn off this recording.
It's okay.
Is that turned off?
They're hard to work sometimes. Yeah.
You press it twice, you go on again.
Yeah, so I understand, guys, we're living in an age where these things once were criminalised in our country, but today they're not. 60 years ago, homosexuality was illegal. It was a legal practice, but now the law has changed. But unfortunately, God's law doesn't change. For 2,000 years, the New Testament has been stating that homosexuality is a sin, that adultery is a sin, that same-sex marriage is a sin.
If you set up a little stall here, right, and people come to listen to you, that's fine. If people want to come and listen to what you're saying, fine. The people in these shops pay business rates. They don't want your voice in their shops at high level, so they can't hear their customers. That's all it is. And that's just basic. Treat your neighbours as you treat yourself.
We've done that. In fact, we've turned the volume down on many occasions at their request, but every time we turn it down, it wouldn't matter if you turned it nearly off. The fact is, it's not the volume, although I understand there can be volume issues at times, but the main fact is the message. They don't want the message. And so that's where we're at. We're stuck, just like you're stuck. We have a law to keep, God's law, and to proclaim that law. Jesus told us, go into all the world, preach the gospel. This country was founded on the preaching of the Word of God. You know, we've 1,600 years of a Christian heritage. St. Patrick preached it and many others. So we preach the Word of God, and that's our command and our commission. That's our faith. And so other people come against that faith, and they try to push back and to silence that. That's always been happening. Today the issue seems to be the homosexual agenda, and that's the one being used now to silence the gospel preaching. So we're in a position where we must preach the word of God. Woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. We've got to preach it. So from our position, we understand that there's issues with noise at times. We're willing to cooperate and turn down where we can, but not turn off. And I think that's what some people want. They don't want it turned down, they want it turned off.
I think if you turn it down, people will be happy.
Yeah.
Treat your neighbour as yourself. Is that the tenet?
Well, that's the second one. The first one and the greater one that Jesus said is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul and body. So love God first, neighbour second. And the greatest act of love is to bring the truth onto the streets. You know, we come out here and love to preach the word of God. We love God and we love people. We want to see dramatic change. Now, I had a dramatic conversion 18 years ago from alcohol abuse, drug abuse and lots of sins, and God changed me.
Your message should not be going into business premises. Keep it on the street. Because business premises pay rates, they have customers, they need to have
I appreciate that. I'm a
conversations.
business owner myself and I pay business rates. So
keep it down. That'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.